Hello and welcome to TTVNEWS broadcasting on Tay Ninh radio and television station with some latest events in Tay Ninh province. And now we come into details. Ladies and gentlemen, on May 23rd, the working atmosphere at the Election Commission of Tay Ninh province was very urgent. Election data in constituencies throughout the province were updated continuously.
This election, the Provincial Election Commission connected directly with the election commissions of districts, cities, and towns. This is a new part compared to the previous election. According to the regulations of the National Election Council, the Provincial Election Commission shall make quick reports on the situation and developments on the election day to the National Election Council every 2 hours. Therefore, this election, the Provincial Election Commission has implemented an online conference system connecting directly with the district-level election commissions to promptly grab information and give opinions to handle arising situations if available at the grassroots level. It's also an information channel for all the district-level election commissions to handle similar situations. Synchronously to overcome the previous limitation, it was the same problem, but many places consulted the Provincial Election Commission, which took a lot of time to solve.
In the turbulent atmosphere of Great Festival, the election day of the 15th National Assembly and People's Councils at all levels for the 2021-2026 term on May 23, 2021, voters in Tay Ninh joyfully went to vote, choosing worthy delegates representing the will and aspiration of the people. Although it rained in the early morning but didn't affect the voting. Apart from 77 polling stations of Provincial district, some polling stations of Ngoc district, where Phước Đông Industrial is located, and Châu Thành Thảo, opened the election at 6:30 a.m. On other polling stations opened at 7 a.m. The opening ceremony at 716 polling stations took place solemnly and in accordance with regulations. The COVID-19 epidemic prevention control was also well done. In the context of the complicated development of the COVID-19 epidemic, Tay Ninh Provincial Election Commission directed the election commissions of districts, towns, and cities to flexibly prepare plans to organize elections in all situations. For isolation areas in the localities, the election teams prepare a secondary ballot box for voters elect under strict epidemic prevention conditions. For workers in industrial zones, units with people from outside the province working, the election teams also brought the ballot boxes to the area to ensure that all voters can exercise their right to elect. My family and I have exchanged a lot with each other, especially the National Assembly deputies. Apart from required standards, the Parliament representative must also have another condition. It is intelligence. The elected delegates to the People's Councils at all levels, as well as the National Assembly in the upcoming term, except for those focusing on economic development solutions, they should also be able to come up with policies for ethnic minorities living in extremely difficult areas and take care of children, women, and other disadvantaged groups in the society so that women can further promote their role in all areas of social life. Also in the morning, the delegations of the Provincial Election Commission inspected and supervised the election work at the polling stations. Tay Ninh carefully organized the election. Meanwhile, the functional forces still ensure strict patrol, inspection, and supervision on the borderlines to prevent people from entering illegally.
In the morning of May 23rd, at polling station number 654, Quarter 1, Ward 3, Mr. Nguyen, member of the Party Central Executive Committee, Secretary of the Provincial Party Committee, Chairman of Tay Ninh Provincial People's Council, attended the opening ceremony and casted the first vote. In the context of the complicated development of the COVID-19 epidemic, the opening ceremony of the election at this polling station was held in the direction of reducing the number of attendees, but still ensuring the solemnity and in accordance with the contents as instruction. I came here today with a very high spirit to be able to choose and vote for those who have a high sense of responsibility towards the country and people, like other citizens. I hope that the elected people will show a sense of responsibility to the country, to the people, and fulfill the action plans to make the country develop.
Mr. Nguyen Thanh, Deputy Secretary of the Provincial Party Committee, Chairman of the Provincial People's Committee, Chairman of the Election Commission of the Ninh Province, attended the opening ceremony and casted the first ballot at the polling station number 638, Water 1 World 1, Tay Ninh City. At this polling station, a total of 1,543 voters participated in voting. To ensure a successful election, the preparation work was carried out by the election team in accordance with regulations and progress. Besides, the election team also arranged and divided the entrances and exits reasonably, fully prepared antiseptic solutions, masks to guide voters to take measures for the COVID-19 epidemic prevention and control as prescribed. Right from the early morning, many people came to the polling station to exercise their voting rights to choose the deserving delegates representing the will and aspirations of the people. As a voter, I would like to put on my faith in the elected members of the National Assembly as well as the people councils at all levels in this period who will fulfill their roles and responsibilities as representatives to the people and the country, implementing on the people's thoughts, aspirations and feelings as well as their action plans as promised to the people to gradually make our country in general and the Ninh Province in particular develop quickly and sustainably. And voters in this polling station put their full faith in the elected delegates this time.
In the assignment of the election day of deputies to the 15th National Assembly and the People's Councils at all levels for the 2021-2020 system in the localities, in the morning of May 23rd, Khmer voters in Dong Ha Hamlet, Tân Đông Commune, Tân Châu District gathered early at the polling stations to exercise their voting rights. Tân Đông is one of 4 border communes of Tân Châu District. There is a border with a length of more than 14 kilometers adjacent to Cambodia, in which the 3 communes of Ngoc, Suối Dầm, and Tam Pho have a large concentration of Khmer ethnic people, accounting for nearly 16% of the commune's population. This year, Tân Đông has 1,483 ethnic Khmer voters participating in the vote. To ensure the efficiency of the election, propaganda activities were carried out in various ways. The locality widely propagated through many forms, such as loudspeakers, direct propaganda, etc., so that people knew the time and method of voting. In addition, during the process of distributing voter cards, members of the election team also actively guided and reminded people to strictly observe the COVID-19 prevention and control as participating in the election.
Ladies and gentlemen, recently in industrial zones in many provinces and cities, such as Bắc Giang, Bắc Ninh, and Da Nang, many cases of COVID-19 infection have been recorded. According to health experts, the risk of spread and outbreak of epidemic in industrial park is very large due to the high concentration of workers traveling by public transport and sharing accommodation. Except for functional forces of epidemic prevention and control, the management board of industrial parks and enterprises in industrial zones need to activate the highest level of epidemic prevention and control to always be in proactive position to respond to the epidemic and ensure economic development. Tay Ninh is one of the localities with many industrial zones. These industrial zones have large scale and large number of employees, such as Phước Đông, Linh Trung, Trảng Bàng, and Thanh Công, Vietnam Mobile Joy Stock Company. The risk of epidemic outbreak in industrial parks and companies is very high. Actually, the current risk of infection in the community, especially in the industrial park, is already present. And when there are cases of infection in industrial zones among workers, it is very difficult to respond because being located in industrial zones is a chain reaction, so the infection is very fast, which Bắc Giang is facing in particular. Maybe in a short time, thousands of people will be infected with COVID-19. Therefore, for industrial parks, the Provincial Steering Committee for COVID-19 Prevention Control is very concerned. Implementing the direction of the National Steering Committee for Epidemic Prevention Control in industrial zones, Tay Ninh immediately implemented urgent solutions in which it is required that functional agencies and localities urgently coordinate to regularly check and assess the safety level of COVID-19 epidemic prevention control in industrial parks, factories, and enterprises. If any company or enterprises are evaluated as unsafe, it is recommended to stop their operation for rectification until it is safe, then continue operating. At the same time, it strengthened the inspection of observing regulations on epidemic prevention and control at production facilities and industrial parks in the area. The workers in the industrial parks are required to make daily medical declarations, remote electronic medical declaration. The manager of industrial parks and business leaders are responsible for the implementation of epidemic prevention control within the scope of their management, promptly correct and overcome the shortcomings, do not allow people with a medical declaration to work, strictly handle violations. Through reports and actual inspection, the majority of enterprises in industrial parks have paid more attention to the COVID-19 prevention control, especially in this complicated period. At the inspected units, they have established a steering committee for epidemic prevention control on the spot, developed epidemic prevention procedures, regularly communicate to enterprises in industrial parks and employees the directions and instructions of the Ministry of Health and the Provincial Steering Committee for Epidemic Prevention and Control. Mr. Nguyen and Ngoc asked that the boards of directors of companies in the industrial park continue to review the plans of COVID-19 prevention control. The biggest concern is to prevent the epidemic, avoid the spread of the infectious disease in the industrial park, promptly blockade if there is an infection. It is necessary to ensure the provision of medical protective equipment for employees, strengthen propaganda for employees to take measures for epidemic prevention control to protect their own health and community. Currently, the epidemic situation is still complicated. Many mutated strains of virus have been found with a more infectious and dangerous level, so each worker as coming to work needs to strictly follow 5 key, especially wearing a mask. In particular, it is necessary to immediately notify the companies and enterprises in the case of any abnormality in health, ensuring the safety of themselves, the company, and the community. That's all for today's news. Thank you for being with us and goodbye for now.